This week I'm working on some alterations for a friend. She's given me quite a few items to look through. Some of them are really simple alterations, which is perfect because it just means that something small will mean that she wears the items again and she loves them and she uses them, and that's the whole point, right? Being sustainable and using what we already own rather than going out and buying new versions of these items just because one small thing needs changing. Hi, welcome back. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Zoe and I am the owner of a small business called Resewn Textiles. Today I'm looking at alterations, but I also look at things like upcycling, repairs, and do custom orders for people and ready-made items. So this is something that a friend has ordered from me. She wanted a few items to be altered. So the very first one that I'm going to look at, that I've already started looking at, only because I needed it for another project. She has these dungarees. The buckles are too loose for the ties, so when the tie is in through the buckle, it just keeps slipping about because they're actually too big, the buckles, for this kind of outfit. And so because they keep slipping, she just wants the buckles removed. Something really simple that I can do quite quickly. I've already taken one buckle off because this is the perfect size that I needed for a previous project. I'll link the YouTube video that you can go and watch. So I've already taken one buckle off, and I think that's a perfect use of how we can reuse things in a way that allowed me to make a bag for a friend. So all I'm going to do is remove the buckles and then obviously tie the strap back down, and then this tie here, she's just going to have it as a pair of dungarees that ties up like this. So didn't need the buckle at all. She's just going to wear them tied up like that instead. So just means I need to unpick that one line of stitching, and then I'm going to stitch this back down and reinforce it with a cross so that it's really sturdy. This shouldn't take very long at all, but it will mean she gets to wear the dungarees because before they were slipping off, and that's not ideal, right? The next one that I'm going to look at is this skirt. So this is a lovely skirt and it's still got the label on it. So she hasn't worn it because it's not quite the right length for her. So she's put it on and I've pinned it in place where she wants the new hem to be. And I've also measured the length from her waist to her knee, and she wants it just above the knee. So I'm going to re-hem this skirt. It just means unpicking the original hem and then turning it back up the amount that's needed. So that should also be a simple fix for this skirt. The next one that I'm looking at is this dress. It's a lovely summer dress, but the way that it's being made is the straps are lace, and it means that they're not the sturdiest. So you can see that this strap is starting to come away just because there's just nothing to attach it to the dress. So what we're going to do is I have some white cotton, so I'm just going to put a white panel in the back, and then that will just reinforce the straps, and then she won't have to worry about them. It looks like this has someone started to mend the strap because I can see threads that have been placed, but obviously that's not ideal. So another simple fix, which means she can actually wear this dress. The next one is a pair of jeans. I believe these are Levi's jeans, and they just need taking in at the waist. So it's only a couple centimeters. I just need to take that in. I'll do what I've done before for jeans, which is to take a dart in at the back, and then you take the dart in to just inside the pocket, and then I will take in the waistband underneath the little band here, and that will bring the jeans in by a few centimeters and will mean that they actually fit her properly. And then the last item is this lovely dress. So on the back, you can see that somebody has already tried to adjust this. So you can see someone has tried to attempt to attach the straps back on. They've clearly broken off at some point, and they've used this white thread. Maybe that's all they had to hand, but they haven't attached it evenly for a start. I mean, these lengths are completely different, and the bits on the side, she wants it taken in. So if I turn that around to the front, when it's on, it's this bit here that's just too baggy on either side. So I've measured, because there's a little dart here for the bust, and I have measured from her shoulder to her bust point. So I'm just going to make sure the dart is in the right place to begin with, and then take it in at the side by however much we'd need to bring it in properly. And it might not even need that much. So, I mean, as soon as the straps are put on properly, you can see it doesn't hang right because the straps aren't in the right place. So yes, hopefully moving the straps over and then taking it in a bit will mean that this will fit much more comfortably. So those are the items that I'm going to be working on for Jen. It hopefully shouldn't take me too long. I think the dress is probably going to be the most complicated because I need to, you know, it's a slippery fabric and I need to make sure I'm adjusting in the right places. But the others are probably more simple to do. The jeans obviously might take a little longer because they're thicker and I need to make sure I've got strong thread, and I might have to take a while and be slow as I'm putting it through the machine. But otherwise, yeah, let's get started. I'm done with Jen's alterations. I started with the dungarees. That was just removing that buckle. So these are looking pretty good. I then moved on to the dress. This one was a bit more tricky than I was expecting. I think because the lace is so like fiddly, when I was trying to put the panel behind the sleeve, it kept moving, and I realised I had to hem the panel on the inside. So it was like, okay, so I've got to hem it and I've got to make sure the lace isn't in the way. But despite all the fiddling, I did manage to get it in. So the straps now look like that. So the white cotton that I used isn't like completely opaque, it's a little bit transparent. You can probably see through a little bit, but I think that works really well because you don't want them to be in the way of the lace or anything. And yeah, I think this will help to keep the straps quite sturdy, especially because this panel behind isn't just attached to the lace, it's also attached to the main body of the dress. So that means that hopefully that'll give it a bit more structure, and she won't have to worry about the sleeves breaking, because there was one side in particular where the lace was breaking quite a lot, and I made sure to reinforce that. So yeah, that should help the dress last a lot longer. It's a really nice dress actually. So that's that one. And then this was the one I did next, the skirt. So what I've done here is I've re-hemmed the bottom. So I pinned it when she tried it on, and what I've done is, instead of cutting off a load of fabric on the end, I've just folded the hem in a couple of times and then stitched it down. This helped me to keep the hem even, but also it means that if she does decide in the future, actually I preferred the original length, she can just unpick this and roll it back down. Or if she thinks it's not short enough, we can just tuck it again and roll. And I don't think it's added too much bulk. I think that's fine. I am going to give it another iron before I give it to her. Just there were these like pleats like ironed in, and I want to make sure they're fully like defined now that I've changed the hem. So I am going to iron it again just to make sure that that's all looking good, because you can see here like it just needs that little bit more definition. But otherwise, hopefully that's the length that she likes. But like I said, it's easy to adjust again if it's not. So that's that one. And then I did the jeans. The jeans needed a few centimetres taking off the waist. So I added a couple darts in the back. I don't even know how well you can see those on camera. But I added 2 darts in the waist on this side and this side. And they go down into the pocket and they just bring the waistband in, but I think it was like a total of 6 centimetres, and then I restitched on all the extra bits like labels and stuff. So hopefully it's not too noticeable that it's actually been altered. And I ran out of thread just at the end, so hopefully this fits well because it was a perfect amount of thread. But if not, I can go and find some more, that's okay. But yeah, so I think this looks pretty good, but obviously the ultimate test will be when she tries them on, and I'll see exactly if they fit properly. And then I did the dress. So the dress was a little bit tricky just because this is such a slippery material, and I didn't want to change the length of the dress, and I wanted to make sure it all fitted properly. So on the back, the first thing I did was change those straps. They were tacked on with white thread and it wasn't the neatest job, and they were in different positions. It wasn't even across the back. So I've reattached them. I had some very thin black elastic that was the perfect size to go through here. And it's not like they're very stretchy, I've only used a small amount, but it saved me having to find some black material and then hemming it and making straps. So yeah, I've used a little bit of black elastic to keep those straps on in equal places. And then I've redone the sides. So I've taken in about, I think it was about 2.5 inches. So times 2, about 5 inches on each side, because it was quite baggy, like very baggy underneath. So I've taken it in, but I haven't cut any of the material out. I've just basically done a large dart and then tucked it in on the inside. I didn't want to take the material out just in case maybe this is too much that I've taken out, or she wanted it a slightly different shape. So I have just kept it in there, and I don't think it's going to get in the way. The way that I've sewn it in and tucked it, it should be fine. But yes, hopefully that is now the exact width that she needs. I have tried to, it's quite difficult with a slippery fabric, and I don't have one of those adjustable mannequins. I really like one, but I had to just manually get a tape measure out and measure around the outside, and hopefully this fits her exact like bust measurement and everything. But obviously the real test will be when she actually tries it on. But yeah, I think that still looks really nice, and I think it looks nicer now, because before it was like just hanging off the side and it was a bit strange. So yeah, I think that's worked really well. So that's all of Jen's alterations done. Hopefully she'll be really happy with those. Like I said, some of them were a little bit more tricky than I was anticipating, but absolutely fine. I think it's just when you're working with slippery fabric like this, you always expect it to be tricky. Before I finish for this week, I have a friend from my choir group who had a jumpsuit. So this is the jumpsuit here. And I thought, while I'm in, you know, repairing alteration mode, I'd take a look at her jumpsuit. So it's a really nice purple jumpsuit that she wants to wear for choir performances. But unfortunately on the front, there is a hole where the iron has burned away some of the material. So you can see that there. And yeah, it's obviously not ideal that that's burned away, but we were trying to think of what to do to repair that and to make it so she could still wear the item. It's quite a thin material, so I didn't want to add anything heavy on there, because I was initially thinking, oh, we could make like one of those like flower badges out of scraps, and then you could just pin it on top. But I think that's just going to weigh it down too much. It's far too thin for something like that. So what we've decided is that I will do some embroidery on the front. Now, obviously I don't want it to be too heavy, so I'll be using thin strands, but I've got some purple embroidery thread, and I was just going to sew a patch of scrap fabric to the back and then get a hoop out and embroider a heart over the top. And then hopefully that will be quite subtle and pretty. You know, the choir's logo is a heart anyway, so hopefully that will match quite well. But yes, that's the plan. I haven't embroidered on anything this thin before, so I'm hoping that adding the scrap fabric on the back will add enough stability so that the fabric doesn't warp or anything. I don't have any, I think I've seen online that for embroidery you can use like the tearaway stabilizer. I don't know what it's called. But I don't have any of that, and I don't want to buy new stabilizer. So I'm just going to use a piece of fabric as my own little stabilizer in the background. And then when I finish the embroidery, I can just go around the inside and cut around the embroidery. I'm planning to do like a heart using a satin stitch, so it should look quite neat on the back anyway, and hopefully won't get in the way or irritate or anything. So yeah, because unfortunately that is quite a big hole. So yeah, I'm gonna, once I've put that bit of scrap fabric on and it's a bit more stable and less flimsy, I can then start to draw around a proper design. Maybe I'll do like one big heart, or a heart and a little heart next to it, because there's another hole here and the biggest bit here. The first thing I need to do is actually stabilize the hole, so I'm going to go thread around the hole and then do the heart over the top. But I'm hoping I have some purple fabric to use somewhere. Not that you'd see it, because it would be you'd cut around anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But I would like it to be a similar colour, so I'm going to try and find some purple scrap and then get started on that one. So hopefully that should only take an evening to sit down and maybe watch some Netflix while I do that. And this is where I really wish I had one of those trouser mannequins so that I could actually put a jumpsuit on the mannequin. Unfortunately, I can't put anything with legs on. So, maybe one day I'll be able to get an adjustable mannequin and one that has legs, but they cost a lot of money. I went to a vintage fair and I wanted my own purple dress to wear to choir performances, and I found this dress. But this dress is far too long for me. It's like so long that it drags on the floor kind of long. Although I realise you can't see that. Let me put you on the floor. So this is me holding the dress where I would wear it. Far too long. So given that I wanted to alter this anyway for me, and it's far too long. I'm wondering if I could just take a section out of the bottom. The trouble is I don't know how much I'm going to hem it by, and I don't want to take out too much and then have it not fit. So this is one option, because I haven't been able to find any purple scraps otherwise. They are very slightly different shades of purple, but don't think you're going to notice that if it's underneath the embroidery thread. Otherwise I have like this pink cotton that was a bed sheet, and it's sort of the same colour family, but I'm wondering if this has a bit more stability given it's cotton and doesn't stretch or anything. So I'm wondering if I put this underneath. Where is the hole? There's the hole. I think given that this pink is almost like, could be mistaken for skin colour, I think that's fine. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste on this piece of fabric. So I'll use a very large stitch length, and I'll literally just baste around the edges on the inside, and then I'll do the embroidery and then take away the basting stitch and cut around the outside. So yeah, I think that is what I'm going to do, and this should hopefully, like I said, give it that more stability. And then I just need to find an embroidery hoop that is the right size to cover all of this so I can embroider it. Perfect. Finished Carolyn's jumpsuit. So I went for the embroidered heart, as I mentioned. So what I did was add that scrap bit of fabric to the back just to stabilize, and then I had to make sure I covered all the hole. Quite a bit of the fabric was burnt away, so I went round the outside first with a whip stitch and then went into the satin stitch for the hearts. And I think it's subtle enough that because it's near the arm, when you're wearing it, it's going to drape a little bit. And I think that looks nice. I think it's like a nice little bit of extra detail, and it hasn't weighed down the fabric too much. That's what I was worried about if I did a patch or, you know, an extra like embellishment. I made sure that I used 2 strands of thread so they were thin enough that they wouldn't add too much bulk to the jumpsuit, and I think this works really well. It doesn't pull on it too much. There were a few bits where I had to go over it several times because the hole is quite big and I wanted to make sure that all the bits were caught in the heart. On the inside you can still see I cut as close as I could away from the fabric that I used, so you can't see that from the outside, and I think that looks really good. So hopefully Carolyn really likes this. It means that she can actually wear her jumpsuit again now, which is nice, and it's added that nice bit of little detail that will mean that hopefully it's not noticeable that it's covering a hole and it's maybe like it's meant to be there. So that means I'm done for all my alterations and repairs for this week. I'm really happy with how they've turned out. If you enjoyed watching me do them, please leave a like and a comment. And if you reach the end of this video, leave me a double hearts emoji just to look like what I've embroidered here. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. I've got some more videos coming up with some custom upcycling orders, some more alterations, repairs, and some more little side projects that I want to do for the business and things like that. So please do subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully I will catch you in the next one.